quarter, dude. She's down.
Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another Fall Obsession Podcast episode. I am Sam. I'm your podcast host. Thank you guys for tuning in. Ridge Rock Hunt Company is the podcast partner. They drive our show here today, and I'll talk more about them at the end of our episode. This is our 2023 edition of the Colorado Hunt Planner. We did this last year with our Western Regional Staff Coordinator, Tim Berges, Colorado resident, very knowledgeable with all this stuff. And we're kind of following up again this year as it's relevant to the time that we're in with another podcast. So this is a very educational podcast and relevant to right now. So if you guys are looking at getting a tag in Colorado this year, this is the one to listen to. So Tim, welcome back, man.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Always look forward to this one.
Oh yeah, this is always, it's like I said, it's educational. I enjoy it. It's a lot of information. It really is, and it was more information than I retained last year, so I'm hoping to pick up on a little bit more, even myself this year. And then, part of our conversation also will be kind of my plan because I'm hoping to draw a tag to come up there and hunt with you this year.
That's the plan.
So we'll dive into that and get into some details on what I need to do to make that happen. But I'm going to let you kind of kick it off, Tim, and take us into it. And for our listeners, there is an actual visual resource that you guys can see on our website, fallobsession.com. Tim put together a very detailed article, educational piece outlining everything and more than what we're really going to talk about today, as it's relevant to the draw applications for individual species in Colorado. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Tim, and we're going to dive into this and start breaking it down.
Sounds good. I always start and we'll end with the same thing, which is the deadline, because we had a staffer last year that decided he wanted to try to do it and his internet didn't work, and I was trying to help him while throwing up. So let's try to avoid that this year, guys.
The perfect storm. Yeah, way to go, Nick.
He's not on this one this year, so I can call him out. But
yeah.
So if you or your friends want to apply this year, don't wait till the last 15 minutes because something will happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the deadline is April 4th at 8 p.m. Mountain Time, and they do not extend it, unless last year they did for 15 minutes because their server went down for 3 days. It's not like they actually extended very much, no matter how many server problems they have. So don't plan on getting any more than April 4th at 8 p.m. Mountain Time to get it done. So that's where I'll start and say that. It is open now. It opened on March 1st. If you're like me and a super overachiever, you already did yours and already paid your money, and then you got to wait and see what happens and pay more money later. So that's kind of where I'm at. But kind of how it works, same as last year, you have to buy a license or turkey tag, small game license or turkey tag as your qualifying license, and then a habitat stamp, and then there's an application fee. Colorado's lovely cost of living adjustments this year made everything a lot more expensive. And we'll get into the really big jump in cow elk tags cost in a little bit, but that's the biggest expense gain. But otherwise, since inflation's up, everything else is up too. Yep. And the way Colorado does it is every year everything goes up by the cost of living index. So the small game license went up $3 or $5. I think it was about $5. Turkey tags for residents went up about $5. For non-residents, it was $40. So it's a pretty big difference there. Yeah. And application fees went up $1 for residents, $1 for non-residents, and then habitat stamps went up $1-ish, something like that, which hurts. Every extra dollar is one less thing. So anyway, so when you go into your CPW account, you'll have to add all that stuff to cart before they'll let you do anything else. We are past the spring turkey draw, so there might be some leftovers. I haven't looked. I'm not going to go turkey hunting this year, so I haven't really paid attention, to be honest. But your other option is doing over-the-counter spring turkey hunt if you want to do that instead of the small game license. If you're a resident, it's about the same price. If you're non-resident, it's like $80 more. So keep that in mind. And so don't buy the turkey tag unless you're really going to come. So, but yeah, the other big change is they decreased the elk units a little bit on the over-the-counter. I believe they took 1 unit out for archery, for bulls, and they decreased the cows by a couple units. I have a feeling this is going to be one of the last years, if not the last year, of true over-the-counter no limits.
I was going to ask you about that because we recorded a podcast not that long ago talking about your farm and everything up there, and we got into a little bit of the elk hunting and some of the upcoming projections for over-the-counter tags. I was going to ask you what all came of that, if anything, yet.
So, like, officially nothing yet, but they have 2 problems that they're running into. All of the elk herds aren't doing great. They all have high predator numbers right now. Cardo has some of the highest mountain lion and bear populations in the lower 48, like other than California. Californians are insane. But other than that, we're pretty much the next highest on those 2. And the harvest rates on both mountain lions and bears are super low. So that's one problem that needs to get solved. And then voters in Colorado decided that wolves were going to be a great idea. And so CPW has to introduce wolves by the end of 2023. And they released their wolf plan. It's probably been a month now, or maybe a month and a half. But the 2 main areas they're looking are both west of the Continental Divide, basically right along the I-70 corridor, like near Glenwood Springs is one. And then the other spots up kind of south of Craig, but in that general area. So it's like probably the 2 best elk herds in the state and the best pronghorn herd in the state are all going to get just hammered. And the problem with Craig is it's right near Wyoming already. It's where I hunt up there all the time. So it's my home area, but it's where I saw wolves, January of 22 that were coming in from Wyoming. So it's already got wolves. And so it's like they don't need more, but they got to do what the voters said or they're going to get in huge trouble. So they're going to do what they're going to do. But so if you have a lot of points, this is the year to burn them. If you're like in the high 20s and you can get a really good tag, don't wait. Do it this year because there's going to be a difference between this year and next year, and then every year after that probably even. Wow. And if you are planning over the counter, this might be a really good year to do it because it might be the last one. I think they'll probably just I think will happen is they'll get over the counter cows completely, and then bulls. I think they'll either limit non-residents or they will do like a limit per unit, one or the other. I think the voters here want it to be limit non-residents, but none of them think about that's where all the money comes from. Mm-hmm. And so CPW, I don't know if they want to do that because they're gonna lose a ton of money anyways with having decreased tag numbers going forward. So we'll kind of wait and see. But I do think this would be a good year to use a bunch of points if you've got a bunch of points. If you can get into some of those premier units, maybe not the top 1, or if you can get in like the top 5, I'd spend them this year and go for it.
Good to know. Well, let's get back to going through some of this stuff. Thank you for that. That's very interesting to me. I don't know. I don't know why the whole wolf thing and everything intrigues me with how they do that, but it'd be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
All right. So on here, I'm kind of following you using actually here on my phone. You might see me scrolling if you're watching the podcast video, but I have the article pulled up on our website that you wrote for us and everything, and kind of following along here. A, B, and C tags. Talk to us a little bit about those and what those mean.
Yeah. So it's the type. So basically every species has an A, B, or C. Even moose has C's, which are super rare. Bighorn sheep and mountain goat do not have C's, but C, basically what it is there is A tags allow you to have one of those tags. So basically, in most cases, it's your bull tags, your buck tags. Basically, any male animal or either sex tag is most likely going to be an A tag. Very rare exceptions if you get into like whitetail deer. Sometimes they're not, but in general, anything with antlers is going to be an A tag. And so that allows you to have one of that type of license. So if you buy an over-the-counter archery bull tag, you can buy, that'll be your only bull tag you can buy, unless you buy a governor's tag, and then that's a different conversation, and you're spending enough money where they're going to let you buy a second one because you're dropping $100,000 plus, so they don't really care at that point.
Yeah.
But other than that, you're not getting another one. B tags are in generally most of them are high population areas for draws for cows and does, and you can have an A and a B, or you can have two B tags. So if you like an area that I usually elk hunt, it's set for second rifle season, which is when I usually go. The elk tags, bulls are over the counter draw, so you can buy an A tag, bull tag, when those go on sale in August. And then the B tag, cow, you put in for the actual draw, and you have to actually draw it. Odds are pretty good. As a resident, it's pretty much guaranteed with 0 points. As a non-resident, it's like 99, 98%. It's getting a little harder where there's not usually leftovers anymore. There used to be leftovers like crazy, like even 4 years ago, but due to COVID, and they've decreased the number a little bit. It used to be about 1,000 for 2 seasons. Now it's about 850, just because the herd's not doing great. It's got fairly prevalent CWD, so need about 10% in the elk, and the deer in the same area around 20%. So they're getting affected by it pretty well. But yeah, then C tags, or you can buy as many as you want. And these are kind of usually like tags that have really crappy access, or there really aren't animals there. So like how we talked about in the previous one I was on with my farm, how there's the elk tag out there. So that's a C tag, and it's over the counter, and you just pay them the money, and they'll hand you 50 of them if you want them.
Dang.
You're not going to find 50 elk in the whole area. It basically covers east of I-25, almost all of Colorado. So that's basically anything east of Denver,
Yeah.
north and south, all the way to the state line. There's a little bit in there it doesn't cover, but basically everything else. And like if you could hunt the entire area, and had all land access everywhere, you might find 50 elk. But there aren't too many. So C tags are usually deals like that where it has poor land access, either low population. Another C tag that I run into a lot is also at my farm. There's a C tag for whitetail does only, and that tag's got a pretty big unit area. It's good for too. Basically, it's like northeast Denver to the state line, out in like a certain area. It's like 4 or 5 units in a row. But like land access is really hard. There's I think like 1,000 total acres of actual public. There's more walk-in that like landowners don't let the state lease their land and let people hunt it than that. You probably have 5,000 huntable acres, or maybe 1,000 huntable acres, or maybe 10,000 in this whole area. But if like the deer don't hang out usually at the places that are put into that program, because they usually like the river bottom and other stuff. So it's just not always a good tag to pick. So C tags, I always say, be really cognizant of like why it's a C tag. There's probably a reason that either there's not very many animals, access is impossible, or you need to just pay money to get private access. So keep that in mind when you're looking at C tag. But if you do have like super limited access, or like the few spots where it is, like there's one decent elk herd near Kiowa, which is like just east of Denver a little ways, on a range there that has access. And if you got permission, which means you paid money to that ranch, you might want to buy 2 or 3 of those C tags, because you probably going to have a shot at 3 or 5 or 7 elk if you want to, because they have a pretty good herd that hangs out there consistently. But you got to make sure like it's okay with them that you shoot that many, of course, before you buy them all. But that'd be the kind of way when you would think about buying extra tags, is if you have an ability like that. Or like I said, when I go elk hunting, I always buy the bull and the cow for the area I go. As a resident, it's not that expensive. You know, they're about $60 a piece. Where for you it'd be $800 a piece, and that isn't a realistic ask of your wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We all got to check with the boss first. So
yeah, I know how that works. So I always tell my a few people, and when we're local, and I'm like, buy both. Think of it as $100 $150 donation to CDW, and then if we get one, great. Because if you only buy one, we're only going to see the other. So if we're local, and if you're not local, then you got to decide, like, is it really worth it to me to spend all this money for another one or not?
Right. Gotcha. Well, let's get into some of these different species and everything. What do we need to know about deer, elk, all the above when putting in for these tags?
Yeah. So we'll start with deer, just because we'll go by the order that I put them in the thing in the article. But deer, pretty much, mule deer are always draw only, or buy a landowner tag, or buy the governor's tag. So there's no way to, you may get lucky and some will make it through the leftover list if you, in areas with either really poor land access or really bad populations. But in general, you need to put in if you want a mule deer tag, unless you're going to spend a bunch of money on a landowner tag. Those are the two options. And a good landowner tag is probably $7,500. You might be able to find some that are less, that aren't great, but somewhere between $5,000 and $7,500 is about a realistic price for a good landowner tag. And that's just the tag and access to their land. That's not guide fees. That's not anything else that they'll probably charge you on top of that.
Gotcha.
So for mule deer, you definitely want to make sure you think about where you put in for the draw. Again, prices went up this year, just like they always do. Residents were up to 45 and change for adults, 17 and change for kids. Non-residents, it's up to 456 and change. It was about 415, 420 last year. So it's $30, $40, something like that difference. So pretty substantial. The one nice thing that Colorado does is they keep youth tags pretty reasonably cheap. And if you're going to buy the youth qualifying license as a non-resident, it's $1.47 for a youth small game tag. So if you are thinking about coming, it's only going to be another $150 for your kid to come and draw a tag. So take your kid. It's not that much money when the grand scheme of things, if they're old enough and they have hunter safety. But that's the spiel there. They do have to be 12. Colorado does require a minimum age of 12 for any hunter. But just a heads up there.
Yeah.
Whitetail deer is a little different. Again, usually in general, you want to draw because that gets you the best options. Some do make it to leftover every year, but usually it's places with crappy land access. Or if you have land somewhere you can think about, does my place fall through? The other option is is a super limited area over-the-counter whitetail tag. Let me pull it up just because I'm not that familiar with it. It's basically Colorado Springs to Pueblo to the state line, and just on the west side of 25. So for me, it'd be an hour and a half drive to a 4-hour drive, and then just to the west. And there's really no whitetail there. Basically, they don't want them in this area because the deer populations in those areas the mule deer are doing okay, and whitetail actually outcompete the mule deer, which seems really weird, but
Interesting.
They hang out better, and I don't know how to explain it other than they just live better with people, and so especially around Colorado Springs and Pueblo, the whitetail populations will probably push the mule deer out eventually. And that's what they're trying to avoid, is they want to keep those mule deer as healthy as possible there and keep that growing. And the other thing is, make sure if you do buy one of these whitetail only tags that you make sure you actually shoot a whitetail. Especially small young ones look extremely similar. A forky mule deer and a 2-point whitetail look almost identical, rack wise.
Yeah.
So really take your time and look. And it is a big fine if you shoot the wrong one. I think it starts at 500 in 5 years of 5 years of hunting. So,
Wow.
You definitely want to make sure, like, if that's what you got, that's what you got.
Yeah. Wow. Good to know. So we talked about whitetail. We talked about mule deer. What else on deer?
That's otherwise they do have, if you're a resident, look at and you want to build some points and like go on a special hunt, look at the ranching for wildlife on these. There's some good ones. I did a ranching for wildlife a couple years ago for elk. And I wasn't successful, but I definitely had probably 2 chances at elk. I just couldn't get out of the truck fast enough. And like, know what you're getting yourself into. Ask more questions than I did if you do end up doing one about like, hey, what's the road conditions? Am I going to be able to drive places? Is this realistic? That, because they told us like, oh yeah, you can drive all over the ranch, and then they get there and there's 4 feet of piled snow everywhere, and they're like, yeah, you can drive on the roads that are plowed, and then they're like, not even half the county roads are plowed. They're like, what? And then they're like, when you have to get your truck and get out of the truck, and of course you have to get like legally off the road far enough to shoot. And it's like, so you're running over to a fence in 4 feet of piled snow, trying to jump a fence, and then trying to get like, it was like 15 more feet from there to where you had to get to where you're legally far enough off to shoot. So it was like 2 times. One time I fell on the way to the fence, another time I couldn't get over the fence fast enough. So it was like, this is ridiculous. So just kind of ask more questions if you do end up doing one of these hunts, especially if it's January or late December. Know what you're getting yourself into, ask more questions, and know more than I did.
Well, let's talk about probably the one, if majority of people that are listening to this for the educational purpose probably want to hear about this one. That's the elk. So let's dive into that.
Cool. Let me scroll down just so I can don't say anything dumb. But yeah, so elk. Again, the big change this year, and this is the biggest change they had this year, in my opinion, was they moved the cow elk tags to be the same as the bull. And of course, they moved them up in price as well. But they're $760 a piece, $760 and 99 cents. So basically $800 by the time you think about it. Easily, what I'm gonna tell everybody is $800 when they ask what it costs, and that's before you put in for the draw and whatever. So right now for elk, they still have the over-the-counter options, and there are quite a few. So for archery, they have a cow only B tag, like I was talking about, and then they have a either sex or bull only A tag. So if you wanted to, you could buy the either sex and the cow if you thought you're going to get really lucky and be able to have a shot at both. You could always, which might not be a bad idea. That way, especially if you're local, like what's another 55? For us, it's $62 this year. For $62, if I got the chance to shoot 2 elk, I totally would.
Yeah.
For you, again, $800. Your wife's not gonna okay that one.
Yeah, and like you were talking about earlier, where Colorado makes their money is the non-residents. That's a perfect example right there. You're literally talking about a $700 difference per tag for resident, non-resident. So that's where the money comes from right there. So
exactly, yeah. And with the no caps or anything, the archery elk and second and third rifle season elk make more money than every other thing combined.
Wow,
it's the way it is. So, there's a reason that people always complain it's overcrowded and all that stuff. And yeah, it is. So that's why you put in for the draw, and you draw in an area that's not on the over-the-counter options. Even if you, or if you over-the-counter hunt for 3 or 4 years and you put in for points for 5 years, and then you got 5 points and get to a better unit where there's not going to be as many people. And let's say that unit has 75 tags. Well, if you and your buddies get 3 of them, there's 72 other guys out there. That's not too bad. So that's always my counter when people complain about overcrowding. It's like, well, for $500 over the next 5 years, you could have a way better experience, and you can still hunt every year. It's not like you have to just say, hey, I'm gonna just put in for points and sit around at my house. You can put in for points and draw either a second choice or an archery elk tag. Like what I do for elk is I put in for preference point as my first point, and then first choice. I always get a preference point. And that cow tag I want up near Craig, I put it as a second, and I've drawn it every time I've done that. If you're a non-resident, it may not happen because it's getting to the point where that probably isn't going to hit every time. But as a resident, you'll probably still hit that every time. And if I don't draw it, I can always just buy the over-the-counter bull tag and just have one tag that year and have saved $60. So that's what I do, and that's what this year I think I'll probably do it again. We'll see. I didn't put in for a cow tag this year just because I'm planning on you coming up and having to use an extra week of vacation to get you a tag, get you hunting. But we'll see what happens. If that doesn't work out, I'll probably regret not putting in for that.
Well, now you're going to make me feel bad.
Yeah, it's all good. If I save the week of vacation, that's just another week to use next year.
Well, there you go, I guess. Man.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I know next year everybody's planning on coming up, so I'm not going to have a choice about it next year. So.
Yeah. What else?
Let's see.
What else about elk here?
So, like I said, there's that C tag by my farm. So if you look at the guidebook or if you're looking through my article, the brochure, which we'll make sure we get a link somewhere on our website for the actual brochure so you can read the actual rules. But you'll see one that says over-the-counter, either sex, rifle, plains. So this is the one I was talking about that's out by my farm. It's good for like basically most of eastern Colorado. It's good from September 1st to January 31st. You can buy as many as you want. You can use any weapon you want, rifle, bow, muzzleloader, whatever. They don't care. They just want you to shoot elk because they don't want to pay crop damage. But there aren't many elk out there. So unless you know somebody who has elk on their place or you see them on a trail cam, it's probably not worth it. The only reason I bought one last year is because I had a bull elk on my trail cam 2 days in a row. And I was going out there that Friday. Literally, I was on Monday and Tuesday, and on Friday, I was going out there anyway. So I was like, even if he's not still there this weekend, I'm going to pay the $56 and the 1 in 50 million chance he's still there this weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but that's my other point there is like know what you're getting yourself into with where your tags are. Really research like on Onyx or whatever ownership map you want to use to see like does this unit actually have some public land, and don't count on if it says walk in. Don't count on that being where elk live, especially in the eastern plains. Like there's not going to be elk there.
Gotcha.
Deer there'll probably be some deer there, but it's not going to be it's in walk-in for a reason. It's not leased by an outfitter for a reason.
Right.
If it's primo habitat, some outfitter's going to pay way more money to lease it than the state pays. I can tell you that because we lease ground to the state, and it's like $6, $7 an acre for them to have it for that. It's not a lot of money. So any outfitter will pay 20 if this stuff's good. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Gotcha. Good to know.
Let's see what else on elk. So again, draw is the best option because you're going to, especially if you draw something where there's no over the counter, you're going to draw, you're only going to be competing against how many other people have tags. So that's my first and always you want to try to do that. Landowner vouchers are great too because you get private access, but again, they cost money. And a lot of us if you can find one that's reasonably inexpensive, there's probably a reason it's inexpensive. Cow vouchers, I would say should be between $500 and $1,500, depending on exactly where, how much ground and everything. Some will be more than that, but like if you're going to shoot a cow, like they're either going to be on that place or they're not. And so know what you're getting yourself into, but like you can get a voucher for a cow for $500 to $1,500. For a good bull voucher, you're looking at like $7,500 to $15,000. Like, for a bad bull voucher, you're probably looking at like $3,000 to $5,000, and that would. But I mean that voucher is going to be not that much better than like just seeing if you can just pay the trespass fee there, because especially if they're doing voucher. And the other thing to think about with some of these vouchers is if you can get a second season cow voucher, see if you can make a deal with the landowner. Like, hey, if there's a bull, I can buy a bull over the counter bull tag. How much would you charge me if I shot a bull? And see what they'll do. Because someone will be like, hey, I'll do a voucher for $1,000 on the cow, and if you shoot a bull with your over the counter tag, I'll charge you another $1,000. That's probably worth it. you know, to get private access, even if it's only the minimum acreage is 160 for a voucher. And if he's selling more than one, you have to sell. The more acres you have, more vouchers you get.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're selling one, they might only have 160. But if they're selling 23 vouchers, like some of them do, they've got tens of thousands of acres. So, yeah, that'd be worth $1,000-$1,500 extra to have the chance to shoot a bull, in my opinion, on top of having that cow voucher. So, shop around, ask questions, see what you can do. They might be able to help you there. Some of them are not great about working with you. Some of them are. It kind of just depends. But the more questions you ask, the better. The best resource I found to find vouchers is Hunting Fool. Their website has a list of them, and they're really good about updating it and checking that they're actually valid vouchers.
Yeah.
They just give you all the.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to point out that the links to like these landowner tags and landowner vouchers are in the article as well.
Yeah, I put the link to Hunting Fool in there. There won't be anything up there until at least June, because landowners don't know if they have anything until June. So if there's two things to know about vouchers. One, only the landowner or the landowner designee can actually sell them. So if some outfitter is trying to sell you a voucher, make sure that you're actually getting it from the landowner with the landowner signature, because it's not valid otherwise. And like if it's like owned by a trust, there's one person allowed to sign that voucher. So figure out who that is through the state, like through who owns it and stuff, or who put in for the vouchers through CPW. They'll tell you if you say, hey, I'm looking at buying this voucher, who needs to have signed it. Make sure it's done properly, because if not, you just lost your money, and CPW will probably try to go after the people, but you're not going to get to hunt that year. You know, you may get your money back, but your hunt's wrecked. So
exactly.
Be careful on that. The other thing to know is they give you, when you buy it, whatever area that unit is, that one's good for. It's like the one by my farm, we're in 93. So my dad's would sell you this one, for example, you'd be good for all the land we own in unit 93. So like, you know, some of them are good for multiple units. Like where I go elk hunting, they're always good for 3 and 301. So if I bought a land voucher from somebody up there, it'd be good for all the land they have in 3 and all the land they have in 301. They can exclude like the first 50 feet around their house, or like if they have like a gate, only cattle can go in and out. They have to give you a ways to go around the gate. But if they say, hey, you can't hunt this area, you need to call the game ward and be like, I bought this voucher, they're not letting me hunt here. And they'll sort that out real quick. So just be like aware of what you get, and also like what you're paying for. So like look at their ground on Onyx again, ask them for the exact real coordinates and figure out what all they got. It's a game, and you know, they're trying. A lot of time it's just a rancher trying to make some extra money, and he may not know all the rules. So you know, he may say, well, everyone else in the past doesn't care that I didn't let him hunt this 50-acre parcel over here. And it's like, well, that's not really the way this works. And there's elk there. I want to shoot them. So, you know, obviously don't want to piss them off and like ruin it for everybody else going forward. But, you know, you paid for that legal access. You need to have that legal access. So.
Right. Exactly. Gotcha. What else do we need to know on elk, Tim?
So with elk and back to deer on the same thing, they also have an auction tag that I kind of mentioned, where it's like you can buy it, and it's good for anywhere, all seasons, any unit, whatever. That's one thing to keep in mind. There's also raffle tags. So the raffle tags are each different species has a certain number. Elk has 2, deer has 2. Most of the other ones only have 1, but that's again good for anywhere, any unit. Any method of take, all that kind of stuff. Usually it's not pretty much unlimited season. Some of them have slight restrictions, but not much. I know the Bighorn one has 1 area you're not allowed to hunt, but like the rest, it's pretty much wide open. And so those raffle tags are a great option if you've like, especially if you're at somewhere that's selling them. Like if you go to the Sportsman's Expo in Denver, there's always the Bighorn booth selling, like they have the Bighorn, the Mountain Goat, and the Pronghorn tickets there. They're like $25, and the odds on them are way better than drawing the actual, especially than the Bighorn and the Mountain Goat and the moose tags themselves. So, and all that money has to be used for conservation for that exact species. So don't feel like I usually put in for at least one of them. This year I missed at the expo, and I I'm probably going to actually draw the deer tag that I want this year, so I'm not going to put in for the deer one that I normally would, just because I know this year I'll probably actually draw, so there's no reason to end up with two.
Oh.
But in that weird case, I actually could have two tags that are both considered. One would be an A and one would be a C. Again, back to the C tags, these raffle and auction tags are C tags. So even if you do magically draw the best tag you've ever wanted and you win the raffle in the same year, like you could hunt both. So you'd have two great tags that year if you wanted to, if you did. It's pretty unlikely, but it could happen.
Gotcha.
So.
Very cool. Anything else before we move into Pronghorn?
I don't think so. But I'm sure you have any questions, because you obviously are just trying to learn.
Yeah, no, I figured we'll get through some of this, and then kind of to wrap it up, we'll pinpoint just kind of what I'm about to do. With as we mentioned earlier, with me wanting to come up there with you. So unless there's anything else on elk, we'll keep mowing through it and wrap it up. So
I think we're good. I will mention one thing again for all of them. There is a code for just preference points. I put it in the article under every single species. It's like the second thing listed. But the code is P99999P. And that means I want to put in for this animal, but I only want a preference point. I don't want to draw a tag. So like this year for me, for Pronghorn, I put in for just a preference point. I don't want to try draw a tag at all. The season, just the dates don't really work out for me this year, and I want to save my vacation days for later on, because like I said, I'm probably going to draw the deer tag I really want. It's a 14-day season, so trying to take off 14 days in a row right after I take a week off, it's literally back to back with the week you're supposed to come up. So taking like 17 or 18 work days off in a row is going to be a challenge, but we'll see what work says.
Well, I'm somewhat flexible, so we can figure it out.
I planned it that way for a reason, because every time I've drawn this deer tag, I've filled it the first day that I've hunted.
Oh wow! So
I've never had an issue like, yeah, I'm gonna ask for the extra time off from work, but I don't think I'll miss beyond when just for you, because I'll be back, because my season opens on Friday, I think it is. It's either Friday or Saturday. And your season closes the day before and then reopens like 2 weeks later. So
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so Pronghorn. Again, there is a over the counter. It is archery only. The archery one is kind of interesting. So it's August to September 15th to 20th. August 15th, September 20th. The August days are buck only. And then it switches to either sex from September 1st to September 20th. And again, this is archery only. And there's a map in the brochure of where it's good. A lot of the places in there, again, either don't have many pronghorn or access is a pain in the butt. There's it's like where my farm is one of the over-the-counter archery units. All the pronghorn in the whole unit live within 3 miles of the highway, and one like 3 guys place. That's about they live in like a 10 square mile area, all of them, every single one of them. And if you don't have permission from that guy, you're not going to get a pronghorn. I've only seen them in one other spot ever, and that would happen to be right by my farm. 5 doe pronghorn ran by last year for the first time ever. But we have never seen them anywhere else, and I've never seen a buck anywhere else than this one place. There's a gas station right there where you get off the highway, and they're actually like right across the highway. There's it's a highway. The interstate gets off to go onto a highway, but across the highway from the gas stations, where they're always in that field. There's always a buck there all the time during the season. If I had a tag last year, I could have gotten the permission and shot one, but I didn't, because it just didn't work out. But I was driving home during season, and there was one sitting there, and I knew somebody who had a rifle tag that started like a week later, so I texted him exactly where it was. He shot one, like probably the same guy, we're almost positive, in the same field about 80 yards from where I saw that one. Wow. 9 days later. So it was we were almost positive it's the same one, because he had kind of a weird hook, but It was pretty funny. But yeah, they're all in that one spot. So it's like, keep that in mind when you look at that. The southeast part of Colorado has a pretty decent population. It's like units like 135, 130, down into the 140 range down in that area. But land access, again, is a joke. Like, if you got to pay money, realistically, because nobody lets you on for free down there. They all know they can sell you land access for $1,000 or $1,500 a head for archery. And then if you want to do rifle, it's usually more than that even, or you got to buy a landowner tag. I know last year I saw a bunch of landowner late season doe tags down there for $1,000 a piece. Guy had like 13 of them, so he probably had 10,000 acres, 15,000, something like that. So he had a huge piece. In the December season, they all grouped together. So like, and those were, I believe, C tag or they're B tags. You could have bought two, but that's a lot of money to spend $2,000. Oh, and one note on landowners: if you buy it, you still have to pay the state your fee for your tag. So like, I pay landowner $1,000 for that pronghorn tag. For me, it's $45. Now, if you pay as a non-resident, pay that landowner that $1,000, you pay the state $456 and change on top of that.
Wow.
And that's the way they do it. It is what it is. Like I said, if you can find a cheap one or whatever, it's a good deal. But just keep in mind, you're paying that to that person, and then you still have to take it into an office and get it certified, and then get the actual license, and you have to pay the state their due.
Gotcha.
So just keep that in mind, that you are paying the tag price on top of the voucher price.
Yeah. Good to know.
But yeah, so the big thing there is over the counter is got that funky thing where it changes from buck only to either sex. Again, either low population numbers or crappy access, or both. Keep that. So that's the big thing to know about the over the counter. The season's really long, of course. Like it's over a month, which is a long season for Colorado. But there's a reason for that. And then archery pronghorn seasons are basically the same length. Like if you draw a buck tag, it's August 15th to September 20th. It's super long season. So that's a good thing there. That's the other reason to do the draw on pronghorns. You get the really long season for your buck, and you avoid the crowds of the over-the-counter areas. Most pronghorn units that are good take a lot of points, even as a resident. Like the area that I usually elk hunt, 3301, is one of the better, if not the best, pronghorn unit in Colorado. I'll say it. I don't care. People can try to get it, but I'm ahead of the game in getting points towards it, so it's not going to bother me. As a resident, like, to draw the archery is 6 points minimum.
Wow.
To draw the rifle is at least 9 points. But there's so many landowner vouchers for that unit. Like, if you're willing to pay the money, you could hunt it every single year.
Wow.
If you're willing to pay $3,000 a year, you could hunt it every single year. You just have to find landowners that have vouchers, because there's so many big landowner chunks up there. And they get 10 or 15, I think it's 15% of the tags there. Let's see. No, they get 10% of the tags, and there's just so many of them up there that they get them. And you could hunt it literally every year, but you're paying, $3,000 plus license fees and everything else, which, if you got the money, do it. I mean, you're going to have a great experience. It's going to be an awesome hunt. But guys like me who don't, we're going to wait I'm going to wait the 9 years to do it with the rifle. I'm not going to go at 6 with the bow. Yeah. Just because, that's 7 years till I get to do it again. If I don't get one, then I'm really going to regret it.
Yeah, exactly.
And with the wolves moving in there, like, it's probably just going to get worse.
Yeah.
I think there are 5 or 6 pronghorn points, so I'm getting semi close to having to start make the decision. But that's the thing there. The rifle seasons, some of them do have a late doe season, some of the areas. So that's really a good option if you have land access, because they really group up. So like, if you have land access and you have buddies, and it's a fairly low draw, like easy to draw unit, that's awesome to do those late ones. Yeah. I know a couple people that have some access down like in the 134 range area. I forget what exact unit they're in, but down there somewhere. and they'll have like 5 or 6 guys get those December tags, and they'll fill like all of them every year just because they'll shoot them all in the same like set. They'll just go around. There'll be a herd of 200 hanging out on a cornfield.
Dang.
So just if you have the ability to get one of those late ones and know a place with land, that's the way to do it for sure. If you don't care about antlers, but so
Yeah, gotcha. Well, anything else on pronghorn that we need to know about?
that's pretty much it there. Again, same thing. If it's east of 25, land access is hard. That's going to be like my theme of the story, because
Yeah.
it seems like a great deal. It's like, oh yeah, it only takes 2 points to draw this unit, and the success rate's 75%. It's like, well, like the 25% of guys who didn't kill anything didn't have access. Like,
Yeah.
or like, let's say there's 100 tags. Well, there's never 100 tags out there, but like even my unit that has, like I said, super crappy land access only has 10 rifle tags by my farm. There's 10 pronghorn rifle tags, literally 10. And I think the success rate's like 60. And it's like everybody knows where they are. It's just a matter of finding 10 pronghorn and like getting the okay from the guy to shoot them on where they are.
Right.
And 6 out of 10 get that, or 5 out of 10 get that every year. But it's a pretty high percentage. But you got to either pay to play or know the guy, one or the other.
Exactly.
Cool.
Well, moving on through the list and everything here, we got bear and then some special species real quick to wrap it up. You want to hit those real quick and the need to know items?
Yeah, so bear, like I said, I need everybody to hunt bears. If you come here and you're buying a tag, buy a bear tag. For one thing, they're really comparatively very reasonable. Non-resident went up to 112.34. So it's comparatively, it's a really cheap tag. And you can add it on if you have a rifle tag in any of the 1 through 4 seasons. There's an option to add, almost always to add a over-the-counter or limited draw bear tag, and it's really simple. And they want you to buy them. And then like the archery, muzzleloader, or rifle seasons are all pretty long. The rifle season, archery seasons are September 2nd to September 30th. If you do want to actually draw one. So there's good options there. I think there's landowner options. I have never really seen them for sale. I don't know like what the deal is there. I've never seen one. I'm guessing most landowners don't really even want to put the money up to put in for them, because there's just like if you get them, you want to make sure you get them and kind of thing. Like, and so I'm sure most people that would pay money for a bear tag probably actually want to make sure they get a bear. So probably your option there is going outfitter, not necessarily an indoor tag. And I know it's semi-reasonable to get a bear hunt here, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 or less, depending on exactly what you're looking for, how nice of a lodge and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it's one thing that like CPW really wants people to hunt bears, and so they make it really affordable. There's high percentage. If you do get one, you have to get it inspected. So you have to like call CPW and talk to them, and they're set up an office to go an appointment to go see them, or they'll, like if they have staff, which is pretty rare right now, they'll come see you. And you have to do it within like a day or two of taking the bear. You like have to call them the same day and then set up the appointment and go see them like within like 2 business days. So if you do bear hunting, like keep that in mind. Look up where your CPW offices are by where you're at, especially if you're from out of state and you want to do it. I was listening to a podcast. Moose are the same way, but a guy from Nebraska was moose hunting last year, and he shot a cow moose, called him to check it in, did the check-in, and had to go to an office. But of course, that office was closed and not going to reopen until Monday. And this is on a Friday. He shoots it, so he goes and drives an hour and a half to the farther away from his house to go to a different one. And then they finally check him, and he finally gets to leave at like Saturday at like 2:00 instead of like if he had been, if the one was open or whatever, it could have been done first thing Saturday. So check into that. Call the office you're going to plan on going to. Figure out their hours. Call a couple other offices around. Know their hours as well. That way, like, hey, if we get one at this time, we might have to drive 5 hours, 3 hours or 2 hours to an office we can check into in timely to not get fined. And they won't care that that there's not an office open. They'll just fine you. So be aware of that. Do the research ahead of time. Call, talk to them. Go from, it's annoying, but it's the rule. So just deal with the rule.
Yeah, exactly. So to kind of wrap up the list here, and then we'll get into our next thing real quick. You have these last 3 species on your list are the moose, the mountain goats. Sorry, can't talk.
You get
and the Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep.
Yep.
All of these, from the article standpoint, as far as the information disclosed, the prices are virtually the same, and they all function very similarly. So we'll kind of knock all 3 of them out at once. But what is the deal with these big 3?
Yeah. So the rules are very different. So everything else, when you get a preference point, you just get a point. With these, they have what are called weighted points. So you have to have 3 points before you can start adding weighted points. And the weighted points are what actually let you draw the tag. So basically you buy in, and they also cost extra money every year for your preference point. So as a resident, it's $50, and they do the draw for sheep and the mountain goat and the sheep in May, usually late May, mid-May. And the moose, they do at the same time as everything else in early June. I probably should have mentioned that a long time ago. That the draw is early June, but that's how it works. So to back up, you put up your application fee and all that kind of your small game license money and everything else. We'll probably cover this in a little bit when we go over yours, but you put up that amount up first, and it's like $120. Let me scroll back up and cover that real quick, and then we'll jump back. So as a non-resident, it's $115.28 for one animal. And then for each additional animal, you'd pay $10 for your application fees. Well, for the mountain goat, moose, and bighorn sheep, when you do it, you have to say, hey, I want to pay the money to get the point, or I don't want to pay money and I'm just basically wasting my time. Because if you're not going to get another point, you're never going to draw it. It's just not the way this works. You need 20 or more to have a chance. So if you're not going to get your points, you're not going to ever draw one. So it's $50 as a resident, $100 as a non-resident for each one, and you got to pay that every year. So I just started the mountain goat climb last year, so I'm at 1 non-weighted point. This year I'll go to 2 non-weighted points. Next year I'll go to 3 non-weighted points. Finally, and then the first time I get a point that actually is helpful will be in 2025. I'll go to 3 non-weighted and 1 weighted point.
Wow.
In 2045, I'll be at 3 and 19 or 20 weighted points. That'll be the first time I can think about drawing one of these tags.
Holy smokes.
In 2045. I mean, the rules may change and they may get a little bit less in demand, or we may have a huge boom in population. Neither are likely, but it could happen. Never know. God may say, I want to have more mountain goats in Colorado, and make it happen. But other than that, I'm looking at 2045 probably, when it's a realistic hunt chance.
That is crazy.
Unless I win the raffle or get to be super rich and buy the auction tag. Which this year the auction tag only went for $36,000, which is the all-time low. I think it's the all-time low for Cardos mountain goat tag.
Wow, only 36.
Yeah, only 36. So here, I mean, I don't need to say it's not that much money, but comparatively, the Arizona Mule Deer tag went for $740,000 this year. Their governor's mule deer tag for Arizona went for 700. I think it was either 740 or 725. Either way, way more money than I'll probably make in my whole life.
Man, for that, all the other things in other places you could hunt for that much money. Holy smokes.
You could go to Africa, and that's my other passion, is hunting in Africa, and hunt every year for 15 years on nicest lodge, hunt anything you want, and you wouldn't spend $750,000.
Oh my gosh. That's
going for 15 years in a row.
That is insane.
But yeah, so the other thing is these tags are really you're going to spend a lot of money to get them, because you're going to pay your $50 or $100 a year, and then they're pretty expensive when you get there. So as a resident, let me pull it, because it's 300. Where is it? If I didn't write it down, but they've gone up where it's like about $300, I think, as a resident for the tag. And pull up the sheet book over here. I got it. Okay, it's $346 for the tag as a resident. As a non-resident, it's $25.44. And just remember, those prices are going to go up every year by the cost of living. So by the time I probably draw this tag, my mountain goat tag will probably be between $500 and $600 is my guess.
Yeah.
You know, with 25 years of cost of living index and updates.
Yeah.
It'll be $500, $600. And I've already paid $50 a year for every one of those years to get there. Now, if you were going to do this, it would be that, and then it would be like $4,000.
Yeah, no, not happening. Sorry.
Probably not. So you're probably not going to join me on that climb.
No,
So
I'll watch from the sideline on that one.
When I draw it, you can come carry the pack.
There you go. I'll come film for you.
Yeah, so you're a little bit younger, so you'll still be in better shape. You can carry the pack and everything.
I don't know about that, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll play that one by ear.
Yeah, when we get when I'm like, Sam, I'm going to draw it this year. You'll be like, I don't want to do this.
I changed my mind.
I didn't say that. I didn't say I'd come film. And I'd be like, yeah, you did it right here.
Yeah, it's on the podcast. I'll pull this episode up from 20 years ago.
Yep.
Well, man, like I said, all this is very, very educational, and if we still have listeners, viewers hanging with us at this point, most likely they're the people who are truly interested and, you know, actually trying to educate themselves on this stuff and put in for stuff, or you just forgot to turn it off, whatever the case might be. But before we hang it up, I wanted to dive in real quick and look at, or talk about, I should say, what I'm going to need to do this year for the steps that I want to take, because my goal is to come up there, thanks to your and your family's invitation, and hunt mule deer up there is my goal. So what am I looking at as a guy from Texas to give myself the best shot of making that happen? Yeah.
So first thing is you've got to put in for the draw. Like we normally draw landowner tags, but the other thing with landowner tags, let me back up a second, is there's two types that landowners get. They can either get what's called a restricted or an unrestricted. So restricted, they can only give to blood relatives or to minor children, people under 17 and younger. So it's 12 to 17. But they can give it to anybody 12 to 17, or they can give it to any blood relative, or they can sell it to any of those people too. Or there's an unrestricted type, and this is the types you see for sale. In very rare cases, people might try to sell the kid ones, but it's never really an option, and people don't usually pay for them, so that usually doesn't happen. But the unrestricted, you can give to anybody, or sell to anybody, or basically they're yours to do with what you want. You can sell them, you can give them away, whatever you want to do, or you can use them yourself. So this year we always just get the restricted ones, because they take less points to draw, because even landowners have to use points to draw their tags. So like our landowner unrestricted ones take about 4 points to draw a rifle mule deer tag. Whereas like there's other areas where it may take 0 to draw the unrestricted. But so anyways, that's kind of the caveat there. But so what you'll need to do is put in for the draw. And so by April 4th at 8 p.m., please be earlier. Don't pull a Nick.
I'm not going to pull a Nick. No, not happening.
I don't need to be throwing up and try to text you while your internet's not working at 7:47, and then they give us a 15-minute extension. It's not enough. But yeah, so you're going to be in. I'm guessing you'll probably do the small game license, because we'll probably hunt pheasants when you come up. So it makes sense to do that. And we don't have turkeys where I'm at, so it doesn't make sense for you to buy a turkey tag, because otherwise you're just going to spend money and probably not hunt it anyways.
Right.
So you're looking at $115.28 to put in for that deer tag, and then your license, your habitat stamp. And then I'm going to urge, and I think you're listening to me on this one, to put in for points for elk and pronghorn, because I think I've sold you on that they matter at this point. We've done this multiple times. You've heard me ramble on it for hours.
Yep.
So those are $10 a piece. You'll be at like $135.28 for those. I personally don't think bear points make a big difference. There are a few limited bear tags as a non-resident that do take points. As a resident, they matter a little bit more, because you could get a private ranching for wildlife tag, but that's not something I'm personally that interested in. If I'm going to go want to shoot a bear for sure, I'm just going to pay somebody in Canada. I'm going to be honestly, it's less work, and it's just, I don't know, it's what I'd rather do, I think, than spend money for the next a million years to get it. I think it's like a 26 or 27 point tag for those ranching for wildlife. So it's like, I'm already going to be in the long haul for other things. I don't want to be in the long haul for a bear when it's like not, it's in the success rate on that hunt's like 21%. It's not great. Like it's higher than like most of the other bear tags, but it's not like, it's not a 20-year project worth, in my opinion. So,
right, exactly.
But yeah, so you'll do those. And again, you got to do that by April 4th at 8 p.m. I'm sure I will annoy you enough that you'll do it long before that.
I will. Yes.
And then first week of June's going to come around, and you're going to check your email every day, and you're going to check your credit card statement every day to see if you get hit. Because everybody will start posting when they say like the draws this week. Everyone will start posting, "Hey, my credit card got hit for this amount of money," and they'll know what they drew. Or if you put in for two things that cost the same, it gets annoying because you're like, "Which one did I draw?" And you have to wait till the actual thing posts, which takes like till the afternoon, the day that it hits your credit card. So everybody will know at like 8 o'clock in the morning if it hits your credit card. Then you'll find out like that afternoon what happens. And they always do it in the most annoying order possible because they do like moose first. So it's like 7 people are happy. And everybody else is like, okay, I didn't draw a moose tag. And then they do like bear. And it's like, again, a few people who like had the high risk bear tags are happy. And everyone else is like, okay, this is annoying. And then it's kind of like random which one they do each day from there, whether it be pronghorn, deer, or elk. And there's like, I don't think there's a pattern. There may actually be a published pattern that I haven't realized, but it seems to be different every year. At least usually it's probably because I'm caring about what's different every year. Because it's this year I'm basically only caring about deer. Everything else for me personally, I'm just getting preference points, or I'm not going to draw the tag that I put in for as a long shot. So I should have enough points to get the deer tag to hunt with a rifle at my farm for a mule deer or any deer. So basically what you're going to put in for is an archery tag that's good. That's an either sex archery tag. It's good for October 1st to 27th, November 8th to 30th, and December 15th to 31st, excuse me. So it has some splits. And then those 2 splits are the rifle seasons, which is kind of funny that the rifle seasons they drop in there. So that's why I was saying if you come that November time, and then my rifle season that I'm hoping to draw will start the day after your season ends. So hopefully we can get you filled up, and then I can fill up the next day, and then you can go home, and we both got deer on camera. So that'd be good.
I like it.
That's the plan, and we'll see what CPW does to make that happen or not. But that's what I'm looking at. And then the other, what I think as for a second choice for you, and I think I've sort of mentioned this, but is if you don't draw the mule deer tag, you can put in for a second. So when you put in for tags, you can put in for 4 options. Obviously for you, like the number one's mule deer. And then there is an option to put in for a whitetail either sex tag or a whitetail doe tag. You and your wife would be pissed if you pay $456 for a whitetail doe tag.
Yeah.
So
I got those down here, man.
Yeah, that's not gonna. Even if you shot a 300-pound doe, your wife's gonna be like, "What the heck are you doing?"
Yeah.
Now, so the whitetail either sex, I think, makes sense to put in for as the second choice, for 2 reasons. One, it's the same season dates, except for you also get the rifle seasons that I have that I'm putting in for. You get both the rifle seasons, so it's called a season's choice tag. So it's good for all the archery dates. You get some muzzleloader dates during the archery dates, and you get the rifle seasons, and it's good for either sex. So as a second choice, I think we should have you put in for that, because shooting a large, nice whitetail, you might want to do for $456. And like meat-wise, they're much bigger up here than the little scrawny deer we shoot down in Texas.
I know meat-wise that they are bigger for sure, and I've seen the whitetails that you have up there, man. They're nice. So yeah, I wouldn't complain if I had a crack at a decent whitetail buck up there either. So
yeah.
As far as mule deer goes, man, I've never hunted mule deer before. I really like Yeah, everybody wants to kill a nice buck, but at the same time, I'm not gonna be picky coming up there after a mule deer or anything. You know, if you
Yeah.
say shoot, I'll shoot.
Yeah, and that's like I said, the first choice is literally good for any deer. So it's good for mule deer, whitetail, buck, or doe. And then, like I said, the second choice is good for either sex. Whitetail would be the way I would do it, and I think that's what we should have you do.
Gotcha.
Just because you'll draw one, you should draw the primary unless like everybody in the world decides they want to try to hunt my area, which I don't think will happen unless some landowners puts up all of his ground into public in the next couple of weeks, but that doesn't happen till the fall. So
Yeah.
I don't see it happening. And just as a fallback, then you can draw the other one. The cool thing that Carter does though is if you draw one and you're like, crap, my wife is pregnant, or because you find out in June, you put in now in March or April, you find out in June, and then you got to go whenever. But if if your wife's pregnant and gonna have a baby or like other crap like that, you break your leg. In June, they give you an option for about 4 days where you can turn the tag back in and get your money back and your points back.
Really?
They used to do it where they changed this last year. They used to do it where you could turn it back in, but you only got either your money or your points back. So like for some guys, it was like, hey, I put 25 points into this tag and I don't care if I'm out $500. I need my points back.
Yeah, I can't go. Yeah, give me them back.
Something came up, but they changed it where there's a surrender period now. And I want to say it's like literally 4 days after the end of the draw. Let me see if I can find it. It's in the book, and I think I put it in the other thing, but the book's a little easier to read just because I don't know where it is when I find it. The issue. Maybe.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's like 4 days. So if you do change your mind or something comes up, pay really good attention, read the fine print, and be on it. Because once you find out you get it, you need to if you draw the tag and you're like, hey, I can't come, you need to get on the phone to CPW the same day, or the next day at the worst. Like you need to get on the phone. If you're not local, if you're local, you need to drive over to an office and talk to them and just deal with the having to wait and talk to somebody, and they're going to be having a bad day because they just got yelled at by everybody and their mom about draw results. But you'll just be nice, say, hey, this is what's up, my blah, 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 and you turn this back in and they'll do it and you'll get your money back and you'll get your points back. But you need to be on it if you want that, because it's not, like I said, it's not quick.
Yeah.
It is really quick. You have a very short time to do it. The other thing they let you do is you can change from one license to another. Like, so let's say you drew a cow tag in like the second season somewhere, and there was another cow tag that made it to leftovers that you'd rather have in like the third season. Like you can trade yours in for that one, and it's like $5. If it's the same cost license. If it's more expensive, they charge you the difference plus $5. So if something comes up and you need to change your hunt slightly, there might be some leverage to do that. That's usually not till like mid-August when you can kind of do that, but it's not you're not going to have a lot of choices. You're going to be left with like the stuff that has really crappy land access and super low populations.
Yeah, I got you. Well, Tim, what else do we need to know?
Put in early, put in often. It is a waiting game. Like I said, I'm planning like my mountain goat hunts 2045 or later. The best elk and deer units are 2035 or later, if I even wanted to think about them. I'm super lucky and there's great deer hunting at my farm, so I'm not going to ever save up to put in for the really great mountain mule deer units, just because it's not like I have that quality of mule deer at my farm. And I'm lucky that I have private access so I can actually get to them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, in general, it's a game and you got to pay it and you just got to deal with it. And it's kind of annoying and it sucks and costs money. And every year it's a fight with your spouse about how much money can I pay. So so I told, in our chat with everybody, that wants to go next year, I told them $150. You have to have $150 this year and $150 next year. It's not that much money, but if you plan on having 150, the 135 it's going to be isn't that big of a deal, because you already planned on having 150 set aside in your life. So
Yeah.
And think about it as an investment, because like I said, you could go every year over the counter and save that 115, 125, 135 bucks, whatever it is, but your experience sucks. I mean, you may, if you really want to hike and really put the time in, or you can take the entire month of September and go elk hunting for an entire month. Great. 99% of us can't do that. We can't go hunt for a month. We can't afford to pay to go on a private ranch during those seasons that have great acreage,
Right.
Pay the 115, pay the little bit of money as an investment so that 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you can have a better hunt. You're not, again, most of us aren't going to want to wait the 20, 25, 30 years for the best of the best. I know I don't. Like, even on elk, like, I splurged a couple years ago and blew 3 points on a cow tag for a private ranch experience. I'm saving up to do a 5-point bull hunt. Is going to be my next one, probably, that I blow some points on, because it has limited hunter numbers, because it has a little bit higher population, higher success rates. So that's what spend a few points and get, spend a little bit of money, get a better experience, and odds will be better. And if you can go every other year between now and then and have a crappy over the counter experience, at least you're getting the experience of hunting. It's as much getting out there as it is getting to take an animal. And if you want to hunt every year, find a cheap landowner tag, or find a guy that charges a cheap trespass fee somewhere, and just realize, like, hey, it's not the best, but if I can get on this place for $500, I can get on this place. I have my own spot. As a non-resident, you might be in $2,000 between like travel, tags, $500 for just get that. That's not that much money if you make it into your family vacation. If you can sell your wife or your or yourself on, that's my vacation for the year. $2,000 is what it costs to do anything on vacation.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
well, Tim, thank you very much. I appreciate all the info and you going through all this again in great detail, like you did last year, both through the article and your research, and then with the podcast here this evening. So it's been very educational, and I hope I got something out of it. I know, and I hope that our listeners, our viewers, did as well. So thank you.
For sure. And if you guys have questions out there, just shoot info@follow-up-session an email, and they'll hook you up with me, or find me on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and we'll get you hooked up.
Yeah, however you guys are listening, whatever it might be, if you're watching the YouTube video or if you're listening on your app, just you can either send us a message on social medias or the general email Tim just threw out there, info@followupsession.com. That send us an email there, and if you have any questions or need some coaching or help, Tim's grateful and or very willing to help out, and we're very grateful for that. So we'll set you all up. So for our listeners, though, thank you all for listening. If you haven't already, hit that follow and subscribe button, whatever podcast platform you are streaming on. We are on all major podcast platforms, as well as Carbon TV, Waypoint TV, and our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is where you can find the podcast videos and a lot of our other forms of content and media series that we have available. FallOpSession.com is our website. That's the hub. That's where you can find all of our different avenues of content, our media series, or educational articles like the one that Tim has written that we've referenced multiple times, as well as other just general hunting and tactic knowledge and tips and stuff like that are available on there. Check out some of our apparel. We got some hats in stock right now, so pick you up a Fall Obsession hat while you're over there exploring the website. Yep, Tim's rocking one of our...
The rifle hunter.
Yeah.
The lucky rifle hunter.
Lucky rifle hunter. That's a very good point. Yeah, so we're pretty much every podcast, if you're watching the video, somebody's rocking some form of apparel. Tim's got that Pronghorn country shirt on too, which was a pretty popular one for us. But social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Go Wild. Those are all the platforms that we're on. We're also on TikTok now. Fall Obsession Media is the handle on TikTok, so go give us a follow if you're into the old ticking and talking and all that kind of stuff. And last but not least, Ridge Rock Hunt Company is the podcast partner. Derek and Lacey over there in Mississippi, they have a large network of vetted and trusted outfitters in North America that they set their clients up with. So if you are looking for an outfitter to hunt with, you might give Derek a call as well, because he's got plenty of people in all United States and across North America that he can set you up with, depending on your timeline, your price range, what exactly you're looking to experience. Derek will help you out. So Ridge Rock Hunt Company, go check them out on their website and their social media pages. Tim, thank you again, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I got one more thing to say if that's cool.
Go for it.
So yeah, if you're in the West and want to join our staff, definitely apply.
Yes.
There aren't too many of us, and it's going to be great to have a few more of us out here. Also, on that note, we are going to do a staff elk and deer hunt in 2024. And so if you are in the West or not in the West and interested in that, apply and see if you get on staff, and we can talk about it with that going forward.
Absolutely. Very, very valid point, and I did overlook that. We are trying to, as Tim said, expand our roster out there in those Western United States. So as I mentioned at the very beginning, Tim is our Western Regional Staff Coordinator, so he's in charge of those Western states and the staffers that are in those regions and everything. So very helpful guy to get you set up, not just with fall obsession, but also with any other kind of hunting opportunities you might be interested in out there. On our website, fallobsession.com/staff opportunities is the page that you can go to. If you forget that handle, don't worry about it. There's plenty of links on our social media pages, through our Instagram bio, and then if you just go to the website in general, there's plenty of hyperlinks and stuff on there that'll send you where you need to go to learn how to apply and start that application process with Fall Obsession. So, and you don't have to be in the West. You can be in other states, South, Southeast, Northeast, Midwest, all those great regions to join staff. But we definitely want to beef up that Western region also. So,
Yep.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Sam. Good to talk to you again.
All right, guys. Thank you all for listening. We're back again next Monday, as always, with another Fall Obsession podcast episode. We'll catch you then.